Hey guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to another Retro RPG. The end of another week, the end of another poll. We've got a very slim win for Rifts Canada, which was a surprise indeed, but a pleasant one. Now I'll cover that on the desktop in a wee second, and I'll be back as usual at the end of the video with some other poll related stuff and some other channel related stuff. But before I do that, I'd like to take a moment to talk about my Patreons, who this week I have been informed it's like a fresh spring breeze every time they enter a room, which is absolutely delightful. Now, if you'd like to join them to help the channel out, or you'd like to see these videos a week early, or you'd like access to one of the other levels of Patreon, such as things I've written, which are shared on a Google Drive, or to become a real honest-to-goodness fake laird of Scotland, then the Patreon's in the description down below. If you check it out, it'd be very much appreciated. But let's have a look at Rifts Canada. So, this is Rifts Canada, World Book 20. For Rifts, funny enough, although the font used on the cover here kind of make the F and the T a little indistinguishable, so it's either for Rifts or Ritz. It's by Palladium Books and it came out in 1999. Now my thoughts on this book are torn, because at the time I didn't know a whole load about Canada, and I thought of it just as another version of the United States. So I was kind of expecting that, and that's kind of what I got, because we've got one of the coalition soldiers on here, we've got cool guys in Arctic survival gear with high-tech weapons. It looks very much like more of the same. But now I know more about Canada and the fact that like 90% of the population live basically on the border with the United States, and the rest of it is just massive Arctic tundra, very inhospitable. I kind of wanted this to be a survival book, and while it does touch on that, it's basically just more of the same. Anyway, let's have a look at the back cover. So we've got adverts for Splendid Dimensional Market, Free Quebec, and the Rifter Sourcebook series. World Book 20, Rifts Canada, an in-depth overview brewing crisis, the coming CS-free Quebec War, maps, towns, cities, monsters, and more. An overview of Rifts Canada and hints of things to come. Key places and communities mapped and described. Monsters and D-Bees unique to Canada. The Tundra Rangers, Inuit Shaman and Trapper O.C.C.s, Headhunter O.C.C.s like you've never imagined, weapons and equipment, world information maps and adventure ideas written by Kevin Sambida, 192 pages, Rifts, endless possibilities limited by only by one's imagination. And there's a whole load to like in here. The artwork is absolutely fantastic, really catches your imagination. We've got a coalition soldier here, or yeah, I think he is. I think that is supposed to be his helmet, although he's got lots of other helmets from people he's killed. We've even got a Glitter Boy helmet in the background there. A warning that the game contains violence and the supernatural, which I always liked. Really got me ready. We've got a dedication page, an introduction, and the credits. And then loads and loads of contents, because these books, as always, are absolutely packed. So we've got Welcome to Rifts Canada introduction, a bit of Rifts history. So giving us details about what happened in Canada during the Third World War, during the opening of the Rifts, the destruction of civilization. Loads of information, much of it written by Erin Tarn, which is in the in-game explorer, who writes a lot of these things, as she travels the world. Heart of Civilized Canada, the city of Laszlo. Again, more coalition artwork. Finding Cheetown cold and foreboding, I decided to go north, where civilization also blossomed. We've got the climates in Canada. Obviously, most of them pretty cold. We've got stuff about Psy Stalkers. And then we're on to the survivalist part. Now, this is kind of what I expect these days from a Canada sourcebook, because after a nuclear war, after technology has fallen, I would have expected people to come up with innovative ways of surviving. While technology would allow them to survive now, no problem, I would have really expected communities to be quite different. We've got dangers of the cold, exhaustion and exposure, hypothermia, cold water kills, some notes about surviving, first aid for hypothermia, frostbite, snow blindness, optional saving throws, travelling in snow and ice sections, deep snow, other winter snow and Arctic conditions, travelling over the stony desert of the Arctic coast, dangers of wearing heavy armour, Environmental armor can be helpful and keep our traveler warm and toasty. There is always the risk of burning out the environmental control system when out in sub-zero temperatures for more than 12 hours. Mentions that heavier armor might make you sink. Notes concerning travel and riding animals. Methods of magical travel, different ways of getting around. Flash floods, mudslides, lightning storms, different problems you might encounter. Again, a very nice piece of artwork, showing some kind of lightning storm over the ruins of the old civilization. Winter sports skills. Now, piloting hover cycles, snow skiing, etc. And that's it. You know, we're 35 pages into a 200-page book, and we're done with the survival aspects. There's a few pages of monsters and things you might encounter, but really, this is a very minor part of the book. But anyway, we go on to Eastern Canada, Free Quebec. Again, more coalition artwork. Now, one of the points I really do like is the amount of settlements that it provides. So we've got Mechanicsville here, nice diagram of it, and laying out all the places within it. Lots of you to drop into your campaign and provide your players with somewhere to visit. The Island Kingdom of Montreal. So we've got Newfoundland, New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, and then we're on to Central Canada. So we're skipping through a lot of the places where people actually live these days. But we've got Ontario, the Cartier-Fury Ranch, key members of the ranch, notable places, and again a lovely map to show you where everything is. The Laszlo region, Trapper's Cove, a much smaller settlement, but still detailing it out. Very useful for somewhere your players might come across. Perez, located where the old city of Brampton once stood, most recently known as Towerville. And that's a much larger settlement. Loads of homes and things in that. We've got Fowlerville, Burleston, Zitikix territory. I think I'm pronouncing that somewhere near right. The big insect aliens, which are quite common in rifts. Hudson Way, we're on to Northern Canada, and we go into the detail of the Tundra Rangers, these cool guys off the cover. Now, rather weirdly, because these are like cyber knights, they are a organised group, but not that organised. They are an unofficial sort of group. So we've got the codes which people follow. But they've all got these cool uniforms. They've got a unified look to them. We've got the Tundra Ranger O.C.C, the Scout O.C.C, the Cavalry O.C.C, Trapper-Woodsman O.C.C. Then we're on to southwestern Canada, and I really do love that picture. The robot horse looks fantastic. Very rifts. Completely unnecessary, but very, very cool. Alien Life, Cyber Knights of Canada, City of Old Calgary, Calgary Highlanders, we're on to British Columbia, the Cyber-Horsemen of Ixion, who are sort of centaur cyborgs. Headhunters defined, the Headhunter O.C.C, Headhunter Techno-Warriors, Assassin O.C.C, Headhunter Anti-Robot Specialist, that picture we saw earlier. Techno-Hound, a very nice cyborg image. That wouldn't go far out of place in something like Cyberpunk. Momano Headhunters. Techno-Wizard Bionics, so lots of technology, you know, finger blaster, what are those, silver-plated blades, hydraulic stake driver. Different guns. Then we're on to aliens, which have started to settle in Canada and the coldness of there. I would have liked these to have been more specific cold weather creatures, but I suppose nobody has choice over the rifts open. But I would have thought people that were coming through and settling in this pretty hostile environment would have been those that were more suited to it. Anyway, we've got Ardentechs, Grackletooths, who look very lizard-like, Creot Hunters, Mastodanoids, the Elephant Men, funnily enough, Noli Bushman, Tree Man, We Are Groot, got Yino. Then we've got various monsters. Now this is what I thought would make a large part of it. You know, we've had magic coming through, we've had the nuclear war. I would have expected lots of mutated native creatures, you know, mutated wolves, bears, etc. But we don't have so much of that. We've got creatures which have come through the rifts, so armoured slayers, we've got bears, we've got ordinary black bears, brown bears, grizzly bears, Kodiak bears, polar bears, and mutant bears. But that's not much more than a paragraph. I would have really expected them to have adapted far more to make Canada have its own tone within rifts, not just its rifts tone, if you get what I mean. Got canines, so red and grey foxes, common grey wolves, timber wolves, sled dogs, but no mutant wolves, none which have adapted, none which have been granted abilities by the magic coming into the world from other dimensions, none which have come from other dimensions. Cadborosaurus, which appears to be aquatic dinosaur of some kind. Fairy bots, which are quite cool, little robots. Fury beetles. Giant squids. Loup Garou, so werewolves of a type. Ogopogo, no idea, again, aquatic dinosaurs. I like the image of it being almost dragon-like with the birds living on their heads. An Ogopogo dragon. Oh, so I was right, they are a type of dragon. The spirit Sasquatch. Then we've got true Sasquatch. The worldly Sasquatch. And then we're going on to typical dinosaurs, demon spirits, shamans and magic. So we've got demons here, a demon bear, the cannibal woman, Russian demons, Sedna the sea hag, Windigo demon, Wipush the demon beaver, notable spirits of the north, Inuit shamans, including Angakog O.C.C, Inuit talismans and amulets. Notable equipment, so Tundra Ranger gear, their body armour, their thermal bodysuits, energy weapons, heavy laser turrets for their vehicles, hover cycles, snowmobiles, Legion 90 Skypack, a flying arsenal, which looks fairly interesting. Strap all the weapons onto one vehicle. A snow lion, homemade MDC armour, Fury Beetle armour, and miscellaneous goods. And that's Rifts Canada. As I said, I kind of expected it back in the day to be much as it is. Just a book extending American North. It's a bit colder, you've got various settlements based on what was there before the war, but it's just the United States. It's not much different. Whereas these days, knowing a bit more about the world and knowing what Canada's more like, I find it lacking because it really doesn't concentrate on 90% of the landmass where there is nothing. You've got a very brief section on survivalism, and that's it. While there's a lot of cool stuff in this, loads of things to get your creative juices going, as with all of Rifts. I cannot compliment Rifts highly enough for just the amount of ideas that come out of it. I do find this a little disappointing. I would have much preferred it to be giving us a different style of game, a more survivalist type of game for Rifts, rather than just post-apocalyptic shooting things. So that was Rifts Canada, and that won the poll this week with some 29% of the vote. Only narrowly ahead of the second place, which was Paranormal Animals of Europe on 27%. Now that obviously takes up the bulk of the percentage points, but the next two, 3 and 4, were pretty close together as well. Denizens of Earthdawn Volume 2 on 18%, and the Dark Tech Sourcebook for Dark Conspiracy on 17%, leaving contenders for the Street Fighter RPG way behind on only 9%. Now I'd have loved to have covered all of these, but it was great to dig back at some Rifts. I've got a shelf full of them, and while it was a surprise because I didn't think Canada would be one of the winning ones, especially after so many much more famous Rifts books losing the polls lately, it was an absolute joy to cover. Now as usual, they're all wiped out of the poll, and we're going back to a Retro Adventures poll. And I'm afraid I've been really lazy, and I've chosen all the books from previous polls which have just been sitting on the table in front of me. So first up, for the Babylon 5 role-playing game, we've got the Fiery Trial. Now this is, from my understanding, a campaign which is threaded between other adventures. So much like Babylon 5 had a season-long story arc, and Some stories would be standalone and some would be building up to that. This builds up to the season-wide storyline, while you plot other adventures in between. I think it's an interesting idea to emulate the TV series, but it'd be nice to see how they managed it. Next up, we've got the first part of the Venusian Apocalypse campaign from Mutant Chronicles, called The Second Seal of Repulsion. Now, I've got this full campaign because I've picked up a huge amount of Mutant Chronicles stuff cheap when it was going out of print here, or one of the game shops were closing down. And I got a bunch of them. It'd be interesting to have a look at them. Now, I was given a large amount of Fading Sun stuff, so we've got Into the Dark. Now, from my understanding as well, this is a bit of a campaign. It's some interesting stuff, but I don't know much about it, so let's have a look if it wins. Our fantasy entry for the Lone Wolf RPG, we've got Dawn of Destruction. Again, this was gifted to me, but I do love me some Lone Wolf. The Lone Wolf game books were what got me into role-playing originally. And finally, for Shadowrun, we've got Dream Chipper, an interesting adventure involving personalities being put into people. So instead of people living out other people's lives through better-than-life chips and virtual realities, their personalities are being put in, and Jack the Ripper and things are out on the streets, and the players have to track them down. It'd be great to have a look through that. But let's put them in the poll, let's see what wins. They're all sat here, so it's going to be really easy for me to catch up on them. Other news. Well, YouTube decided to send me through a play button. Now, I haven't won a silver, gold or platinum play button. They've sent me a Lego one. I had to build this up myself this morning. It arrived in the post. It's got a missing piece at the bottom, but it's kind of cool. I have to admit, it seemed really silly, but I was glad for them to send me it. A bit of a laugh. I'll stick it on the shelf behind me so it's visible in future videos. My own plastic play button for getting 4,000 subscribers. Is that what I've got at the moment? Be fun. Anyway, other things on Drive-Thru-RPG, well, there's been a few books of traps I've been putting up for fantasy settings, for cyberpunk settings, for post-apocalyptic settings. But most of my time's been going into finishing off an adventure I hope to get released before Halloween, because it is Halloween themed. It's a serial killer adventure for cyberpunk. So I'll be putting that up, and obviously that will be getting distributed free to my Patreons of Librarian and Laird status through the shared Google Drive they get access to once it's ready. Hopefully before Halloween, as I said. And over on RPG Gamer, well, I've been working my way through the episodes of Ahsoka. There's loads of stuff in there, and people are coming over and commenting and chatting as we decide the best way to cover these things, because Ahsoka did make some revelations and changes to the universe, which the rule set that West End Games did back in the 90s doesn't quite match up with. Also on the site, my co-administrator Hellstorm has been back and doing loads of stuff on modifying starships. It's absolutely brilliant, so come on over and check it out. But, as usual, I think I've been wittering on for quite long enough, so thank you very much for watching. But as always, most of all, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.